Assalamualaikum and hello and a very good afternoon to fellow guests. I am Shafika Suhi, a committee of this year's YSF. Would like to welcome you to our ninth lecture, which will be presented by Nur Masturina Ibrahim, entitled Stem Cell, Friend or Foe. Without further ado, I'll give the floor to Masturina. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamualaikum and also good afternoon to everyone. So as you can see, my topic here is stem cell, friend or foe. Before I start, let me start my presentation with a question. Have any one of you ever heard of stem cells, or maybe came across it before but you didn't really care about it, so you just leave it? Please raise your hands up if you've ever heard of stem cells. Okay. Can I step back so I don't have to present because you already know what stem cells are?
I know a little bit.
Oh, alright. Okay, first things first, I would like to tell you what stem cells actually are. So stem cells, they are basically cells that have the potential, a remarkable potential, that can differentiate them to many other specialized cells. When a stem cell divides, they can when the stem cells divide, they can actually stay as stem cells, or they can turn themselves into cells which have specialized functions such as nerve cells, liver cells, immune cells, and red blood cells. Actually, this is a side story. You guys know gecko, Chacha, they actually use stem cells to grow their tails and regenerate the tail. Like when it cuts off its tail, so it regenerates by using stem cell. I mean, the only problem is that we can't do that. I mean, we obviously don't need to grow tails, right? So, but there's something about stem cells, like human can learn about it and have the same potential in our body. I mean, regenerating cells. It's not because we don't have stem cells. We actually have loads of stem cells with a whole lot of various stem cells that we can take advantage of. Let me start by setting a foundation and telling you guys what are the stem cell types that we have in our body. The first thing, probably you might heard of, embryonic cells. Embryonic cells, I'm sorry. Remember when you were little, everyone told you you can be anything you want. So actually, the concept, it applies to embryonic cells. Embryonic cells, they can be anything they want. For example, liver cell, blood cell, and anything at all. They have the capacity to actually differentiate to every single cell in our body. For example, liver cells, as I've mentioned before. And not only that, they also have the potential to renew themselves over and over again. Embryonic cells, they are marvelous. They are actually immortal. The next cells are the adult stem cells. Well, actually, I have a picture of the embryo, because embryonic stem cells, it's actually cool because we take embryonic cells from the embryo, so it's controversial. Yeah. The next cell is the adult stem cell. The adult stem cell, unlike embryonic stem cells, they are actually called somatic cell, and they can only be differentiated into a limited numbers of cells. They have the capacity to differentiate according to where they are and where they come from. Usually, the bone marrow and also the brain, they are rich in adult stem cells, and every single one of you here, we actually have active stem cells of your age, your gender, and who you are. Another one is called the induced pluripotent stem cells. This one is actually a miracle to the medicine world. I know it sounds very technical and it's very fancy because it's induced pluripotent stem cells. Compared to embryonic stem cells, which are naturally pluripotent, induced pluripotent stem cells, they are grown in a vitro. A vitro is actually when you grow cells in a dish, petri dish. So they carry out exact function, the same exact function like embryonic cells. But what's cool about pluripotent stem cells are that it comes from you. It comes from us, adults like us, and also other organisms. Scientists can actually take a piece of your cell and bring it to the lab and work a little magic in it, and voila, cells are reverted back, or you can call it reprogrammed back to the stem cells. So if you think about the potential of this, these stem cells, it can actually be differentiated to many different types of cells, like nerve cells, and then or heart cells probably, and then these cells, they put it right back into you, and imagine how amazing it is, because the chances of tissue rejection is actually close to none, because it's your cell, right? We won't reject our own cell. So amazing capacity, amazing technology, but that is not all. I mean, I've been telling you guys about how heroic these 3 cells are, but you never know what's the bad side. They actually have bad sides. So the bad side, it starts to reveal when we talk about cancer cells. The root to all cancer cells are actually cancer stem cell, and every cancer patient they actually have to go a treatment called chemotherapy treatment, which is a radiation treatment that can damage our body, and things are great after that. Things are back to normal and we go on with our lives. The ball tumor shrinks, but then after 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, the ball of tumor eventually grows back because the stem cells are not defeated yet. So scientists actually believe that cancer stem cells are actually the cause of this reoccurrence, and not only that, this villain, they are also responsible for spreading the cancer throughout our body. We have potentially amazing drugs which are capable of shrinking the ball of tumor, but guess what? This tumor, they are immortal and they know how to spit out the drugs before the drug can even cause harm to that ball of tumor. Because they are just like our stem cells, right? Because they are immortal and they can't be killed because they are stem cells. How invincible stem cells are. Oh, actually, yeah, embryonic cells. This one, what I just explained to you guys earlier, that they can actually differentiate to many other cells that are beneficial to our body. And then this is actually the tumor. This one is actually the cancer stem cell. Cancer stem cell. Actually, the ball of tumor shrinks, but the cancer stem cells actually survive. So that's why the tumor can reoccur even after chemotherapy. So scientists today, they are actually currently working on a molecule which can match the cancer cells and probably change the cancer cells to become a more benign cell like neutron cells. And they actually believe that this would be a new paradigm in preventing cancer. So what I hope is that today's lecture is basically to help you understand about how stem cells are incredibly amazing, and they can either be a blessing to you, and at the same time, it can also bring upon destruction to you. I think that is all from me. Do you have any questions? Yeah, sure.
Stem cells are now actually being done for people who want to later use them for their future medical treatment.
Yeah, actually, there's actually the good and the bad in stem cell therapy. As I said, if it's if it's taken from the embryos, then it is a bit controversial. But actually, scientists can take any part of our cell, like the skin cell, for example, and then they can bring it to the labs and they reprogram it so they can be reverted back to stem cells. So that's why I think it's beneficial in stem cell therapy, even though it's controversial if it's from the embryos.
So may I say that when the baby or going to be or born, so which part of the
Okay, I get it. Actually, it's not the embryos from a mother's womb. It's actually a test tube. Embryos that are grown in vitros. Like this. So they're not actually from the mother's womb. They're actually grown in a vitro.
so it's after delivery or during while still pregnancy or after delivery?
No, because what scientists do, they fuse eggs and sperm of someone, but it's not actually doing the thing. But I mean, it grows on a petri dish. How they do it. So it's not from a mother's womb. So it is grown on a petri dish, the embryo. They actually take the embryonic stem cells from the grown embryos on a petri dish called vitro.
Is it possible for the placenta or somewhere after delivery?
I'm not sure. I think if it's from the mother's womb, which is quite cool, but I think you can actually obtain it from the embryo itself. Because embryos they are rich in embryonic cells. Dr.
I watched a YouTube video. It's a doctor talking about the strong possibility that chemotherapy is not a good way to cure or to get rid of cancerous cells. And he had a very convincing argument. So my question is, if radiation or chemotherapy does not stop cancerous cells, that means that whatever the hospitals are doing now is not the right approach. What's your comment?
In my view, I think the chemotherapy, they only shrink the ball of tumor, but they don't actually, they reduce the cancer, the ball of tumor, but they don't actually like kill the cancer cells away. In my view, chemotherapy, it impacts on our body, but it does not really, it's not efficient because like after 3 months, like I've said before, 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year, and then the ball of tumor starts to grow back, so it's not an efficient way, the chemotherapy. And then instead it brings the negative impacts to our cells, like it can damage our organs and change our DNA. Probably. So I'm not sure. I don't think it will like sustain for a long time though. I mean, it'll be like for a short period of time. If in that case, for example, I'll take heart as an example. So they actually, what they do, I've watched the video, they actually take the stem cells from your bone marrow and then they just use that thing and then they actually injected it right to your heart. I'm not sure if it's possible to actually grow a heart outside our body.
they have grown tissues outside the body, and they use the stem cells. The first one they grew was a piece of kid, which has been fine. Another stem cell transplant, YSF.
So in your opinion, what's the best way to get rid of cancer cells given chemotherapy?
Is the chemotherapy? I actually said something about how a molecule can actually match the cancer cells rather than. Okay. I think scientists suggest that they will make a molecule so it can match the cancer cell, and the molecule itself, it can actually. No. The first thing, wait, can I go from the top? Like, I've read somewhere they actually said that they're going to do a chemotherapy first, so the ball of tumor shrinks, and then the still under progress in still they have to search for the molecule, so that molecule can right after the ball shrinks, and then the molecule can match the cancer cell, so the cancer cell can actually turn into a more benign cells like neuron cells.
Does it work?
Because it's still under progress. Yeah.
What determines stem cells to be white blood cells or red blood cells?
What determines them?
Yeah.
It depends because if they started as stem cells at first, right? So it goes to the origin, for example, the liver cells, and then they just naturally become liver cells.
But what if the stem cells are in a petri dish?
Can
Stem cells are in a petri dish.
in a petri dish. I'm not really sure though because I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
Can you tell us what might be the possible negative impacts of introducing stem cells?
Probably by using this cell. I've read somewhere that the stem cells they can actually be somewhat like mutated ones that can bring in negative impact to us because in the process of trying to be specifically this is talking about the pluripotent stem cells, the ones that are reverted back. So in the process of reverting back to stem cells, some of the identity of the previous cells, they're actually like there's traces of it. So it's not really that efficient, but the scientists are still working on how to like purely reprogram the induced pluripotent cells to stem cells.
If someone were to extract stem cells from a fetus inside a mother, when is the best time to extract the stem cells?
Usually when the embryos started to develop around the 36 week, I guess.
Hi. Okay, so from your whole presentation, this is all about stem cells, okay? So stem cells is something that is really new in the science field. And I was wondering, since you mentioned that gecko has stem cells, and we humans have stem cells, do plants have stem cells?
Yeah, actually plants do have stem cells.
Really?
Yeah,
So
they do.
can you like for example plants? I mean, you know, common plants we need to water them, we need to put the fertilizers and things like that. So if for example plants they do have stem cells, can you grow their stem cells in a way that you grow, you know, stem cells like in an in vitro version of it?
You mean the
Yeah,
the
using the
from,
dish.
uh-huh.
Can you
But
grow, like-
it comes from the plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible actually.
It's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
So it's possible that you don't have to farm and make, you know, apples from the
Yeah.
Oh. Hello world, we're coming to you.
I think I remember that they actually have grown leaf cells from a stem cell of a leaf. I mean of a plant. So they actually grow it in petri dish. Yeah.
So do they have to provide them with water and
No, of course. Ideal environments are supposed to be.
do you need soil to install?
Actually, because they show the leaf inside the petri dish and then there's chemicals like they're putting it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sharks have stem cells?
Fungus.
Just say yes.
Yeah. Mr. Reyes is so. Is there any other questions before I touch down?
Is there a limit to how far can we specialize the stem cell?
Pardon?
A limit to how far we can specialize the stem cell?
For embryonic cells, the possibilities are endless. They can actually be anything, like I said before. But the adult stem cells, they actually have a limited, like how far can they go?
So even from a different
But if it's from a different species, for example mouse, and then we have to grow something out of it, and then we have to put it in a human body, like there will be tissue rejection, right? So I don't think it's possible to have another species cell in our body.
I have one more question. Is it possible to make synthetic human tissue using stem cells?
Yeah, it's possible. So I think that is all from me, and before I step down, I would like to call upon the new president of YSF. As mentioned, my name is Patricia. I will be the new president of this batch of YSF. I hope this will go smoothly, and I hope we can continue the work of excellence. Thank you. Thank you, Masturina, for the great choice of topics. So I think that is all for today's talk. Thank you for attending our YSF talk, and if any one of you is interested in giving a talk or writing an article, please do see any of the YSF member. And before I forgot, please subscribe to our newsletter. Thank you.